Alright guys, this is a little synthetic division practice. So last time we did division with polynomials doing the long way around, and you guys, I know, hate doing the long way around compared to this way, but I need you guys to both compare the long way and the short way around for this section. Okay, so if we jump into now synthetic division, this is the L chart stuff. Okay, so these should be L charts when you do them. And the first thing we're going to look for is we're going to see if we have all of our exponents and make sure they're going in descending order. So going in descending order, so like 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, that kind of stuff, okay? And we want to make sure they're not missing any. So say I was missing the 3, okay? Well, that tells me that I need a placeholder in there, and we put the little smiley faces in them in class because we were missing them. So if you're missing an exponent, you need to put a smiley face placeholder in there. Okay, the number outside of the L chart is the opposite sign. We talked about that in our notes. The opposite sign of our divisor. So for example, if my divisor was x minus 5, then on the outside of my L chart, I'm going to have a regular old 5. Okay, so the next one here is very important too. We're lining up our coefficients, so the numbers out front of the variables, okay, not the exponents. So you're not going to see 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 inside the L chart. It's whatever the coefficients are, or the big numbers up front, okay. Always drop down the first number to start, and when we do that, we're going to multiply on the outside by that number from our divisor. And then we're adding on the inside. So multiply on the outside, add on the inside. Then, when we do get numbers at the bottom of our L chart, normally we circle the last one and we were done. That was for synthetic substitution. Now when we do synthetic division, that's not our case anymore. Okay, that last number is the remainder. Okay, and the remainder is always a fraction. So the remainder out of your divisor is always that fraction. Okay, so that number for your remainder, always out of your divisor. So like if I use that up here, say my remainder was 6. Remainder was 6. And my divisor was x minus 5 that we talked about up here. Okay, that would be my remainder. Alright, to the left would be your C. So say I got my L chart done here, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, or something like that. My last one's my remainder. The next one over is my constant, or regular old number. The next one over from that is the x term, so the single old x, or exponent of 1. The next squared, and if I had more numbers, it would be x to the 3rd power, x to the 4th power, on and on and on, as you go to the left. Okay. Then, when we're done, make sure to write it out as a polynomial. We read it from top to bottom. So if I use that example up here, well, that'd be 1x squared plus 2x plus 3, and then plus 4 out of my remainder, and we'll say our divisor was x minus 5, okay? Make sure you write that out in the end. If you just leave those numbers underneath that synthetic L chart, that doesn't tell me anything. We're trying to make a polynomial out of these, okay? All right, so with those reminders, let's try to do one ourselves here. So let's do A together, okay? So first thing I'm going to do, since I need an L chart, I'm going to make that L chart. Okay, now I'm going to see, do I have all my exponents? Well, I have 4, 3, 2, 1, nothing. So that's good. I have all of them, right? And they are going from biggest to smallest, or descending order, so that's good. Okay, now I'm going to see, well, what am I going to put on the outside? Well, here's my divisor, and I'm going to take the opposite sign of that, so negative 6. Okay, and now I'm going to put inside my L chart up above the coefficients. So my first coefficient, that's a 1 in front of that p to the 4th. And then 5. And then negative 11. Then negative 25. And then 29. So now we have it set up. Now all we need to do is drop that first number down. So I'm going to drop that 1 down. Alrighty. So if I drop that 1 down, I got that 1. And I'm multiplying on the outside. So 1 times negative 6, well, that's negative 6. And remember, we're adding on the inside, so 5 plus negative 6, that's negative 1. And I'm going to multiply again. So negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. And I'm going to add again. So negative 11 plus 6 is negative 5. And I'm going to multiply again times negative 6 to make 30. And I'm going to add those two to make 5, regular old 5. Then 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. And if I add those two together, 29 and negative 30 make negative 1. So I'm not quite done there, remember, okay? I can't circle negative 1 on the end there and I'm done. These are polynomials, okay? So remember, this is always my remainder. This one's always my regular old number constant. This is my x term, or whatever variable we're dealing with. I guess we're dealing with p, so I better deal with p. So my p, here's my p squared, and here's my p to the third power. And it's always going to be one less than the one we started with. Okay, so see how we started with a 4? I'm going to end up with a 3. Okay, and if I read these from top to bottom, because that's not completely done yet. If I read these from top to bottom, that's p to the third power. You could put that 1 out front if you want to. Minus 1p to the second power. Again, you could put that 1 there. Minus 5p plus 5, and I don't want to attach a p there because that's just a regular old number constant, minus 1, that's my remainder, out of my divisor, which was p plus 6, not minus 6, I want the original, okay? So here we go. Here's my answer. Here's my new polynomial we get when we divide those two original polynomials up top there, okay? So that one was A. We're going to look at B too. Or D, I guess. D. All right. Right off the bat, you should notice that this looks weird, right? Okay, they don't look like a regular variable plus or minus a number, right? I have that 3 that's really awkward out front there. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of that, okay? And how I'm going to get rid of that is I'm going to divide the whole thing by 3 here and the whole thing by 3 here. So if it looks like this, where that x or whatever variable got is not a 1 out front, it's some other number, you got to divide it out of there first, okay? And if you divide, I'm going to make this new polynomials here. So 3 divided by this 3, okay, is 1, or x to the third. Negative 4 divided by 3, just leave it alone as a fraction. We don't want to deal with any messy decimals, okay? Negative 17 divided by 3, again, leave as a fraction. We don't like decimals. And then 6 divided by 3, well, that's just 2. Then divided by, 3x divided by 3 is 1x. And then negative 1 divided by 3, just again, leave it alone as a fraction. So negative 1/3. Okay, so now we rewrote it to make our divisor look like the way it should be, right? X minus or x plus something, okay? But still, when I go to make that chart, I'm going to take my opposite sign on that number. So this is going to be positive 1/3. And now I'm going to look at my coefficients. Not from the original, I want the ones from this one here, the one that we divided by, okay? So I'm going to take the ones from that one. So this becomes a 1 from the x to the third power, negative 4/3, negative 17/3, and 2. Notice that my exponents all go in descending order again, right? So it goes 3, 2, 1, 0. They go from biggest to smallest, or descending. And I'm not missing any, so I don't need any big smiley face placeholders, okay? When you miss exponents, that's when you need that 0, or the smiley face placeholder, okay? So now I'm ready to do my synthetic division. So first I'm going to drop down that 1. And 1 times 1/3, because remember we're multiplying on the outside, is 1/3. Okay, and we're going to add in here. So negative 4/3 plus 1/3 is negative 1. Negative 1 times 1/3 is negative 1/3. And if you add these, negative 17 thirds plus negative 1/3 is actually negative 6. And negative 6 times 1/3 is negative 2. And if I add these, 2 plus negative 2 was 0. And then I gotta quit because I'm out of stuff to drop down and multiply by, okay, for my synthetic division. But remember, 0 is just not my answer. I gotta figure out my whole polynomial now. So remember, the last one's your remainder, then your constant or regular old number, and then your x term, and then your x squared term, or whatever variable you're dealing with, x, y, z, p, okay, anything like that. And remember, it's always going to be one less than what you started with. Well, I started with an exponent of 3. I'm ending up with an exponent of 2. That's kind of like a mental way you can kind of check yourself, okay? And now, if I just read them from top to bottom, that is 1x squared minus 1x. And again, you can choose to write the ones if you want. Minus 6, and I'm not attaching any x to it because that's my constant, or regular number. And then I can add on the 0 if I want to, but since it's 0, I don't need to. So it's really like I don't have any remainder in this one. So here's my answer, x squared minus x minus 6. Okay. In B, you have a normal old divisor, okay? And your exponents are in descending order, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and you're not missing any, so I don't think you guys will have any trouble with that one. On E, though, I have another one of those weird ones, okay? Since V's not all alone up here, I gotta divide everything by 2 first. Okay? So make sure you divide everything by 2 and follow that same example as I did in D. So on E, divide by 2 first before you do any synthetic division. On C, okay, that looks good. We have V all alone, so I don't have to divide anything out first. But if I look at my exponents here, I go 5, 4, 1, nothing. They do go from biggest to smallest, right? But I'm missing a couple of my exponents. I'm missing 3, or x to the 3rd power, and I'm missing x squared, okay? So make sure when you set this one up, if I go ahead and set it up, well, again, I need the opposite sign of my divisor, which is negative 4, okay? Then if I put my coefficients, I go 8, 32, but since I'm missing my exponent of 3, smiley face gets in there. Then my exponent of 2 is missing 2. And then I have 5 and 20. Okay? Then drop down your 8 and start your synthetic division. And last but not least, letter F. Okay? Well, it's got one of those ugly ones again where I have x attached to something. I got to get rid of that something by dividing it out first. Okay? So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So again, on this side of the paper, right, I have these 3, D, E, and F, I have to divide out first, okay, before you can start any synthetic division. Okay, again, follow what I did in that example D, so you can finish out the remaining 4.